Ndewo onye ọbụla ga ntị Chukwu gọzie gị mụọ Chukwudi. Yes, so this is a channel in which I read out extracts from my diary in order to reconcile the past events with the present. Yes, so in my previous video, akọwala m otu ihe mere ni papa anyị jiri decide ya to split his family soon after the war when he returned back to Lagos. So ọ decided ịhapụ nwanne anyị nwoke nke ọpara wụ Mike schooling in the village because Mike has started schooling before all of us and was in a better position more than the rest of the children. So for our father to be able to disrupt his education was not needful. So that prompted my dad to decide to leave Mike in the village while my mom had to travel with the remaining children to Lagos. So the number of children my mom was to move with was 5. Moa, Chinedu, Stella, Joe, and then Franca. So these were the 5 of us. So you can imagine 5 children with a very meager salary in a very small enclosure, a house, I mean 1 room in a number 20 Oshindero Street. It was a very small house, barely 2.5 square meters, which is not enough to accommodate such number of children. But we have to get something started. So akọwala m otu that thing, otu what happened around that time. So and otukwanụ papa anyị jikwa na ji decide ya to allow Chinedu to go back schooling while I was asked to remain at home for 1 year. So and bịa kọwakwa ihe mekwara ni until papa anyị abịa decide ya kwanụ ma nọgide n'ụlọ ahụ for 1 year, then bịa mama anyị save akwana ego to support my dad. My dad na-akpọkwanụ that same Madam Josephine onye Gbelungwuru ọ na-akụzi na Lagos Premier Day School. So mekwa this woman invite na settle ọkwana ya enwekwana ike jeje register mụa bịa bidozie school na the same school where Chinedu was. So with Chinedu being 1 year ahead of me. So during the time ngaji ejekwanu school, so the routine was like mlodo from school, maybe though the role which was placed on me at that time. I mean, it's not right for me to say of myself to be the slave of the family. No, I was not a slave of the family, because whatever my dad and my mom put me through at that time, today that same thing is what is helping me to sustain, helping me to go through different parts of the world where I have been. Today, Ngadibe Ukwombarani na different part of the world, Agalam about 8 countries, Nakuna survive to the glory of God, or started from the orientation which my mom and my dad placed in my hands. So at that time, I might be looking at it that it was like a kind of punishment. No, it was not a punishment. They were preparing me for a harder times in front of me in the future, which is today. So at that time, Njeshi school, Lodo, it was my duty to lay igwe papa anyị ejagba. You can imagine papa m ji eji igwe were jije ebuta meta sometime ọrụ ya n'ebe Solere, ọ ga-eji igwe were jije gaa ya. Igwe was something that was used on daily basis, even weekends, except Sundays, in which my dad never worked on Sundays. So igwe ga na-adọli ya na awụ chen mgbe ụfọdụ afọ ya eme na afọ ya emeghe in other kind of thing. Onye ga-abara jepaje rupiara ọ Chukwudi. So Mapari Mlodo school, Yama with any problem with the bicycle, my dad I report all to me, Mapuri Naka, Jemiti, JJ Ebeke Ripiara, measure the bicycle. So Yarumo with any problem with the sewing machine, Mama Mejado. So and the sewing machine, okay, you will be hearing the sound of the machine from a distance. Camera that time, my mom is busy sewing some things or one thing or the other. So Mlodo Yama with any problem with the machine, my mom will report to me. Yawo in the evening, Mishrijike. Mama ame apara machine poka sam nishi adi ego moto adi moto ngabwa, because we couldn't afford the transportation to the place. So aga mejuku with ga along Lawansing Road, you just drop all the machine move for the major Hemeshichaya, move for the Yarmo get time, Heshin Labu, Malabu, Yaro on appointed day. I will have to go back there to check whether the machine was ready, Papa we are back. So and then Yaroka, it was also my responsibility as the senior person among the children. Ije ikate 3.5 kilometers away. Meje ikate jeje ba drinkable water. Papuli anolo. I mean in a bucket. So in the evening, so the leftover of the bread in the morning before major school. Mapa outside the display in front of the house, and then normally mama would constantly suggest that agam ne do now outside ne legide the bread anya. So this was my duty. So agam ne do now outside ne legide the bread anya. Nrokwa nga na kona go na kona make my homework ya any homework from school. Yes, and ne made the homework at the same time and keeping vigil over the bread. So like as I said, Itire at that time was clustered with a lot of Indibo Rono na Itire at that time. Many of them were people from Ngobala. So seated outside actually exposed me to another kind of big lesson, which was the measure at which my father's own value was rated among his own people. So seeing member of the same kindred members, I mean, members of the same kindred. Nde muna haje dukota, hina papa meje dukota manije na the kindred meeting of Umofakaja. Mana huha hana ishini hilo papa ni. While my father was seated inside, hana gafe without even ifeaka. So melanya shia nde opande anina haje nde anina haje made the same kindred meeting. Yes, they were the same people. No problem about that. Yes, but in this kind of a situation, I don't always go to tell my dad, except that when that kind of thing begin to persist. So, manda decide that my papa, she papa, I'm no pay money the bar, I'm dead on the bar, ogaferi. You know, so that was the situation at that time. So as far as our father was concerned, this kind of things has placed my father in the spotlight of the stigma associated with being poor. So poverty is not a good thing. Everybody can understand that. So, but it is inevitably changed my own. It has changed the dynamic of my own understanding of the relationship between the so-called kinsmen, Umofakaja. So, and with my dad. So I grew up understanding my father's own emotional vulnerability in the position as a single son to his mother, and also being very poor. So you get with poverty. So it means that we all know what is going to happen. So this has helped me to examine my own perspective of the definition of Umofakaja. What does Umofakaja actually mean? So the Umofakaja and the stigma associated with being a lonely son and added with poverty has placed my father under the category of those people that will be relegated in the family. Yes, that is the situation. So my dad Anya is up to the standard by which my father belonged. I cannot regret that my father was poor, because richness is not a must. Yes, so in how Hemreni Papamji order that Moa have begun to exhibit signs of maturity and understanding. Onamreni Ojiji Shimdu, Maidu, Pape Bito Bena Korom Basara Nemkuku, that is Nemwabira. So now Otunemwabira is Bambo struggle to be able to establish a legacy that will in future counter the establishment of mediocrity nke nona Umofakaja, by encouraging Papa to abandon his wish of becoming a priest. And then Namrana that na at that time onye father enwike iluwani mokana muwa. So but to be able to respect the need and uphold the need to be able to have a taproot in the family, or withstand whatever Umofakaja is trying to establish for himself, whether good or bad. There was need for Papa to get married and have children. So Papa Bito Kwabeba Kokoram about Otuchukujiri Jigozie and a single child who became our mother, you understand me, and his life, and the life of two of them combined together as orphans to be able to raise a family. And Chuku Amiagozie ha large number of children. So half of the number of these children now will be initiated into the witchcraft in the village. My question today, Nagawo, Kedi Umofakaja in particular, Thank you for listening. Stay with me in this channel, and God be with you. Yes.